What is going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. Exciting video to do for you guys today, but before we get into it, if you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so and check out all the great links in the description below, including the link to today's sponsor, popculturezone.com. After the video, stay tuned for a little 60-second clip for more information about them as well. So today's video is going to be addressing an LCS owner that reached out to me that had recently saw a video I did a while back discussing a certain LCS that lost my business for life. Some of you may be aware of that video. It is up if you guys want to go check that one out. Now, this LCS owner watched that video and said, I understand where you're coming from with that video, but I have some concerns for myself because I see my store falling into maybe having some of the same issues as that LCS. So before I get into the questions that this LCS owner asked me, I'm going to give you a little bit of context on the LCS that lost my business. So in brief, the LCS that lost my business, there's multiple issues in the terms of why I will never go there again. But the main thing that they did was they have dollar bin boxes that are marked and priced, and they have back issues that are marked and priced. And I went into the dollar bins, and now keep in mind, I would frequent this store, and I always know what's in the dollar bins. It hardly gets changed out. It's stuff that's been in there literally for years. I pulled out one of the Vision and Scarlet Witch books from that limited series, the 1 through 12 limited series. It wasn't one of the key issues at all, and it was very beat up. It didn't have a board. It was in an old nasty bag, and it might have been a very good, like a 4.0, maybe, if that. I brought it up to the counter, and the owner said, I can't do this for $1. I'll sell it to you for $5. And I said, I'm good. And that was it. I've had a lot of other issues with the store that I'm not going to get into in this video because, like I said, you guys can go watch the video I did on that. But my issue is you have a book out on the floor and it's priced. You champion that price. You sell it at that price. If you cared about speculation and you knew a show was coming out with certain characters, you go through your inventory, you pull your old stuff out and reprice it. All right, that was my main concern. Now let's get into what this LCS owner was asking me and was stating, and he was hoping to get some feedback. So this LCS owner stated he recently watched that video. I own an LCS in Oklahoma, and I am the only employee. We carry comics, and a lot of the books are like you described in that video. They're old, in old ratty bags and boards or unboarded, and it kills me. I have collected since the mid-'80s, and I've always taken care of my books. I just don't seem to have enough hours in the day to bag, board, organize all the comics and cards. Same issue with his magic, he says. Let alone price them all. It always seems that when I do organize them, people that dig through them put them back in the wrong spots or reverse the order because of how they are looking at them. And this is common. Very, very common. Anyways, this isn't a complaint about your video and saying that it's unfair or impossible. Just an inquiry on how to do this. He's looking for some advice. He wants them to be organized. He wants them to be priced. Let's see, what else does he say here? Just he wants to have, like, do you have some good tips? What are some apps that, you know, I can price for fair market value? My comic shop seems good, but it doesn't seem to go quickly. Is there anything else that's quick? I asked him a couple of questions like, you know, well, how many comics you got out on the floor that are not priced? He's got 6 to 8 boxes of back issues that aren't priced. We also have a magazine rack where there's some. So not a huge inventory. But I'll say this. First off, to this individual, his name is Mark. Mark, if you're watching, I feel for you. All your concerns are valid. And, you know, I appreciate your ability to be transparent and come out and say, can you help me with this? Is there anything else I could do differently? But Mark, let me first state this. My issue isn't necessarily having books out on the floor unpriced. Now, if it was me, I wouldn't do that. I have a way around that, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. My issue isn't even necessarily going on eBay. I have issues with it for many reasons, which we could get into a little bit in a minute. But my biggest problem is this. If your book is priced, if it is priced and it's on the sales floor, you honor that price. And that's why that LCS lost my business. It wasn't because the books were, in old bags. Some of them weren't boarded. It wasn't that. Or it wasn't even that they weren't priced. It's that he didn't honor the price that he had on them on the floor. All those other things, like the fact that it's dirty in there, the fact that, he doesn't take care of his stuff, and like there were books that were molded, and you don't want mold next to any of your other books. That mold's going to spread. I mean, those are like icings on the cake to the fact that he didn't honor his price. So, Mark, no matter what situation you're in, as long as you're honoring a price on a book that's already got a price marked on it, you should be decently fine. But let's discuss these other issues. As someone who has recently started selling comics myself, I don't even have an LCS, do everything from home. As somebody who wants to bag and board everything before I bag and board it, I grade it and price it before I go up for sale. That's why you guys see me when I sell on Whatnot. You guys don't see me there like every other day or even once a week. I've been doing like every other week because, like Mark's saying, it's a lot of work. And me, I'm a one-man show. Now, obviously, I work as an educator. I work doing YouTube full-time. So, Mark might have more time on his hands still, but still, it's absolutely a lot of work. I'm going to give you some tips here, and the first tip I'm going to get is books that aren't priced. Let's just start with that. You may have some inventory on the floor that you got to. It is priced. It's, you're good. It's got the price that you want to sell it at. It's on the floor. But you got all this other stuff that's not priced. And you don't want it to just sit in the back room until you get a time to price it. Because if it does that, then, it's inventory that's sitting and you're losing money, potential sales from doing that. What I would do is this, Mark. If you have no other option and the only resort you have is to have them be of access to consumers and customers without them being priced, I would set them in a specific designated spot in your store. Preferably, probably, if you have room next to the counter, so they're not like in the middle of the storefront or like in the main area of the storefront. Kind of have them maybe in the back of the store next to the counter. And I would put a sign on them and I would state unpriced back issues. And you can even add like, feel free to browse. If interested, inquire at counter. If interested in price, inquire at counter. So that way it gives your customers the opportunity to still look through them, and they know ahead of time that these aren't priced. I'm going to go take it to him and see what he's willing to offer these at. Now, if you're in that situation and you need to price them quickly, I'm not saying that eBay is completely a horrible option. But you need to understand that oftentimes, especially for back issue books that aren't keys, there's going to be a premium for eBay. And also, you need to make sure you're not one of those LCS owners that sees like a high grade copy of a book sell for $30 and your copy is beat up. It's completely beat up and in rags and you're like, oh, $30. No, you got to understand the condition and the grade of the book that you have, right? But I wouldn't use eBay. I wouldn't. Now, this may not be the quickest way, but what I would do, because keep in mind, rummaging eBay takes a lot of work too. I would use coverprice.com. So say, for example, you have Thor 256 in these unpriced back issues. And, you can look at it and you can eyeball it. Maybe it's in a bag. Maybe you take it out of the bag just to eyeball it. I have mine in a very fine 8.0. So if I was looking at this as an LCS owner or somebody, I'm assuming that you're probably decently savvy in being able to gauge a rough grade of a raw book. What I would do is I would grab the book, I'd look at it briefly, I'd pull up cover price. When you pull up cover price, you type in the issue, and it'll give you an average raw. You can see right there, high raw, current high raw, current low. You can see an average raw, and then it has a clickable link that brings you right to the comic book on mycomicshop.com. And say you've estimated this is probably about a very fine, maybe a very fine plus. And you've looked at the average raws from cover price and you click that My Comic Shop link, brings you right to it. And you can see if they have a very fine or a very fine plus available, and say they have it at $9. You could be competitive and say, oh, it's going online right now for $9. I can give it to you for $7. Or I can give it to you for $8. That is what I would do. I think it's the most efficient way of doing it, and it's the most fair way of doing it. You know, or if they're asking $9, you can even say $9. But Mark, be willing to barter. If it's selling for $9 online, and that individual's in your store right then and there, and they're like, $9, oh man, you think you can maybe bring it down a little bit? And then you can say, I'll give it to you for $8. And he's like, well, how about $7? All right, sold. $7, it's yours. Something like that. I would definitely be willing to negotiate with the customer, as long as, of course, you think it's fair still. You know, you're not wanting to give anybody a handout or give anyone something for free. You don't want anybody lowballing you. You know, you might chuckle and say, it's all good. You know, I'm stern on this price. Those are my tips for you. Now, let's talk about how we can really amp up, though, your organization skills. I hate to say this, and this is going to be a bit a tough love, but there are many LCSs out there these days that they're not willing to evolve. And because they're not willing to evolve, they cling to these old archaic ways of running a business, and then they complain. They complain, they cry about it. Oh, it's not what it used to be, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Or they do what I just said about they don't price their books, or if they price their books, they don't honor that price, and they look up on eBay, and for a beat up book, you know, they want $5 when you can find it on eBay in a high grade for $5. I would try my best to see if you have the revenue stream to bring on a part-time employee, if only for 4 hours a week. That's it. Because while I know how much time it takes, I do. Having somebody there focusing solely on bagging and boarding and pricing can alleviate so much, and it can get so much done. It can absolutely get so much done. And maybe it could be somebody that is a college student that is just looking for a little work. Maybe they're just a comic book fan. Maybe they have a day job and they're willing to work 2 hours, 2 days a week, you know, total of 4 hours. And Mark, quite honestly, if you were in my area, I'd come into your shop a couple hours a week and do it for you just for store credit, because then I could take the store credit and buy some books. I would absolutely love for any one of my LCSs to say, Chris, I need help organizing these books in my store, maybe grading them. I'm a pretty savvy grader, pricing them. I could do all that work. Come in for a couple hours a week and I'll feed you and give you some store credit and get you some books for free. Hell yeah, I'm down. I am so down. So that's one area that you might want to look into, Mark. You know, just seeing if you got somebody that can come on and do something like that, even if it's just a couple hours. Other than that, you might want to think about, I don't know what your store hours are, but it might be of your best interest. And, you know, you could say, okay, well, I'm losing money, but you may be taking a short to see a gain. So maybe you close, maybe on one day, you close an hour early and you open an hour later and close an hour early. That way, on that day, once a week, you spend an hour before you open and an hour after you close doing one thing and one thing only: bagging and boarding, grading, and pricing your books. I think those are the best examples of what you can do to really get your store to that next level and avoid being a store that operates on such a low degree to where you end up alienating your customer base, crossing a very unethical line, and losing business over a few bucks. So, Mark, what you're showing me, though, is you are in a position to where You don't want to lose your customers. You want to do what you can to the best of your ability to continue to appease your customers, take care of your customers, and gain new customers. So, Mark, just for you reaching out shows me that you're doing, there's something that you're doing right. You got a good head on your shoulders, and you're just trying to evolve with the ever-changing market, and you got your hands full. But there might need to be some more sacrifices that you're willing to make. And I know even in Oklahoma, I'm in California, but I'm sure in any state right now, rent is tough. Retail, brick and mortars, it's tough to continue to operate, and it's a tough job owning in LCS. But Mark, I have faith in what you're doing. I hope this video was helpful. I would love to continue this conversation with anybody, whether you're an LCS owner or whether you guys just have thoughts or questions on the matter. But I really do appreciate you, Mark, for reaching out to me and inquiring and asking me these questions. I would love to hear what you thought of my feedback, and I would love to keep in touch with you to see what things you may have implemented down the road. All right. So again, thank you, Mark, and to all of my viewers, thank you so much for watching today. Let me know what your thoughts were in the comments below. Again, be well to everyone. Stay tuned for that Pop Culture Zone snippet so you can learn more about today's sponsor. I want to thank them too for sponsoring today's video. Thank you guys. Be well. And until next time.
PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US, and if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well.